Good morning and welcome to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, right here on 92.9 KVRE and streaming online worldwide at kvre.com. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, we've got a great show planned today. Of course, we're going to be breaking down the All-Star break in MLB, and it's also the starting week of our high school football preview series. We've got two excellent head coaches coming online later in the show today to talk about their respective programs and their goals, breaking down star players. We can't wait to get started with some gridiron talk. And of course, as always, stories and news from local area teams around the county and around the region. Tracy, you had a good week this week?
No doubt about that, Mark. I'm telling you what, I am pumped, and I know you are too. Football, and don't get me wrong, we love baseball. We love football in all sports. But when it comes to talking football now, Mark and I have been collaborating on games. How many in a row now? Somewhere way up there. I don't know how many in a row that we've called, but quite a few.
Yes.
And the streak continues this year, and we cannot do that without all of our fans out there and all the sponsors that we've had through the years. We appreciate them so much, and we'll continue that effort. And I think this year is going to be a big year for us, and hey, and God willing, that we keep doing it more and more.
Hey, shout outs to Alice. Every time I walk into the KVRE building, she comes rushing up to me and says, hey, you'll never believe how many downloads the show got this week. And it continues to grow and grow. Certainly thank you to our sponsors and thank you to our fans, whether you've stuck with us since we began the show back in March? I think we started this thing back in March. And of course, if you're new to the show too, that's okay. Welcome. We love to have you aboard. And thank you for continuing to support what we do here. Of course, all the love coming in on the text line as well. You can text us at any time during the show at 501-915-1300. Tracy, let's go ahead and get started.
We got a lot
it's
going on.
July. Mm-hmm. We're coming up on the middle of July, and the first half of the MLB season is in the books. And boy, what a season it's been for Major League Baseball. As we hit the All-Star break, there have been some really big surprises this season. Some big winners, some big losers. Let's talk about it. Of course, we start with the Texas Rangers, the team that won the World Series just a year ago in dramatic fashion, picking up its first World Series title, defeating a very red-hot Arizona Diamondbacks team that nobody saw coming all the way to the biggest stage in the Fall Classic. And now the title defense for the Texas Rangers has been maybe a little bit hard to reproduce coming into this year. Heading into the All-Star break, Texas is 7 games out of the AL wildcard, third in the AL West. And despite not really making a whole lot of changes to the team in the offseason, they still sit behind the Houston Astros in the 2 spot and the Seattle Mariners. Shout out to the Arkansas Travelers, by the way. The Seattle Mariners, who lead the AL West, coming into the break at 50 and 43. Let's start with Texas, Tracy. I know you're a huge fan of all things Texas. Where do you see the biggest gap for the Rangers right now as we approach the halfway point of the season?
Well, Mark, to solidify the team, they're going to have their pitching right now has really been lackluster, and there's not been a lot of change in that at all. I mean, the rotation is basically the same. They've added a few, but that's what's really hard to figure out. Now, I know from one year to another, you know, they gain on you and they find out your key and your success pitches and stuff like that. But still, to have them getting and I'm talking some banged up, they are really getting, some home run balls hitting on them. And, of course, also the amount of errors in their defense. That is something that got them to the next level last year, if you recall, all down the road when you said you were talking about Arizona. If it hadn't have been for some key plays in the 9th and 10th inning, because if you recall, 2 of the games went into extra innings, and it was because of some doubles it was something that to watch how their defensive strategy worked out and such. It's not so much this year. It's lackluster, and I just don't see the difference because, once again, it's basically the same players. They're out there. Something's wrong, though. Something's not right.
Well, there you go. It's Major League Baseball, and, of course, you cannot afford to stay stagnant. You can't afford to stay status quo. The Rangers this season have played just shy of 50 games. They played 47 games against teams with a record better than 500.
Correct.
And out of those 47 games, they've won 17. They've struggled at home, just being 24-21, just barely over 500 at home. That's where you really have to make your money. Road games, it's wild, wild west, especially in the American League, and it really feels like anybody's ball game, especially with the level of talent that you see top to bottom through all the divisions in the American League. But of course, in the AL West, where of course the Houston Astros have been to 7 straight ALCSs, and Seattle, who continues to get better with an excellent farm system and bolster its squad, Texas kind of feels like it has its back against the wall. Looking ahead at the All-Star break, of course, the draft right around the corner, and some major trade deadlines, Texas is going to have to bolster that bullpen if they want a chance to repeat.
Well, Mark, I'm going to tell you what, though, too. You're talking 500, right? Teams above 500. Well, in their league, there's 8 teams that are above 500. But then you go over from America to the National, there's only 5 teams over there that are above 5. So the different calibers, just like you said, restructure on teams. You would think that there'd be more teams than 500 that are above 500 in the National. American with only 8 teams. So they've played the best team so far. And now after the break, of course, is there going to be a difference? I don't know. I don't see that.
Well, we see it all the time, of course. Even this happened with Texas. And to be fair, Texas heating up right before the All-Star break, has that 5-game winning streak coming in. So they're entering the break on a hot note, getting some much-needed rest and just time off to recuperate, because we know a lot of people casual baseball fans don't even really pay attention to the MLB standings until you hit August, mainly September. And that's whenever that playoff push begins. Okay, you start looking at the standings and you're like, okay, how far are we out of the picture? Okay, time to really play ball out there, as long as you're a healthy squad. So I do have Texas down as one of the biggest losers right now at the All-Star break. A lot of pressure on them, of course, as the reigning World Series champion, and still another half of the season to go. But it looks like the quest to get to that ceiling, it feels really far away. Like I said, 7 games out from even reaching one of the 3 wild card spots out there. So let's talk about some other leaders in the American League. Talk about a couple of winners here. The first one, I'm going to have to tip my hat to the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, I'm an AL Central fan. I am a Chicago White Sox fan. So I don't even need to talk about why my team is the absolute biggest loser of them all, because we are absolutely number one, the worst team in the MLB. It's a real struggle being a White Sox fan. I'll be honest with you. It's a real struggle talking about
a few games behind, just a few.
Listen, it's been done. It's been over and done with. I'm not in denial. I'm in the acceptance stage. It's fine. But it's hard to talk about a Cleveland Guardians squad that's doing so well, because they are doing so well. They lead that division that, coming into this season, fans weren't necessarily sure who might stand atop, because the Twins are always in the mix. The Royals have been resurgent. And even last season, the Detroit Tigers went on a really good run as well. It really felt like the AL Central was up for grabs. Cleveland said, no, not on our watch. Cleveland coming in 57-33. And this is a team that scores a lot of run. They've got a 97 run differential in the positive, a team that has insanely good pitching. Jose Ramirez is one of the best sluggers in the MLB, regardless of AL or NL. And when you look ahead to the future of this program, the success right now that Cleveland has, certainly look like they're going to run away with the division. We'll see what the second half has to say about it. But certainly at this point in the season, they look like they're going to run away with the AL Central. And let's not forget, they also have the number 1 pick in the draft. So they're only going to get better. They're going to get some really good top prospects out of this year's draft to bolster that squad and make them more dangerous in the years to come. We've seen in the recent mix with the draft, like a Paul Skeens out of Pittsburgh, and look what he's done as a first-year rookie, really changing the game from the pitching mound. And even though Pittsburgh's still on the outside looking in terms of the NL wildcard picture, they're in contention simply because of their pitching out there. And pitching is a big reason why we see some of the teams that are leading right now as big leaders. Got to look at the New York Yankees as well, a team that hasn't won a championship since 2009. And it's always championship or bust for the Bronx Bombers. But Aaron Boone has this squad exceeding expectations, I would say, because you've got probably the AL MVP in Aaron Judge. It seems like year in, year out. But this is a team that started the season without star pitcher Garrett Cole, had a lot of injury woes, and still came out pretty happy for I would say until about June 12th or so. New York was right there in the mix with Baltimore to try to take the AL East down as the AL East lead. Now, I still have the Yankees listed as a winner this season, and that is despite a very excruciatingly painful skid they've had since about the middle of June. Since June 12, New York is a Major League worst 5-15. Over that stretch, they've lost 14 out of 18 games, a slide that started back on June 15th, and they've had some injury woes as well. Of course, Anthony Rizzo's been out with a broken forearm. Giancarlo Stanton has been out with a strained hamstring. They're playing without some very key pieces to the puzzle, but despite all of that, despite the skid coming into the All-Star break, this is a team that is in a wild card position, but still only 3 games out of first in the East.
Yeah, and I don't see the Orioles, exploding too much more. They've done what they could. They've on just the opposite way, like you're talking about. They've excelled since June, and for them to only be 3 up on top of the Yankees, I think it'll all come back together around. They finally got their rotation back, as you stated. He's back now, and he did have a good. His first game out was so-so, but his second game came out, and he had control. He did have control, so I think that's going to be a big one. Flipping gears, when we come back in the fourth quarter, I'm going to tell you what, we've got some more to talk about, because I'm telling you, the National League, I don't know if there's anybody out there, and when we say Dodgers, we say the most money that anybody can pay for anybody, and that's just one guy. So when we come back, of course, we've got a couple of interviews that we're going to be talking to some coaches, and we still got fourth quarter.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. So.
Because if you think the Dodgers are the best team in the NL, I've got an argument for you.
Exactly. And we will do that in the fourth quarter. But we've still got the second and third quarter coming up right here on the Sports and Shorts Tailgaters. He's giving me the eye, guys. He's giving me the eye. We come back, we're definitely going to get into that. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition right here on 92.9 KVRE, streaming online at kvre.com. He's Tracy Simpson, and I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, we've been waiting for weeks for this moment. Of course, right around the corner is the beginning of the 2024 high school football season, and we have so many great high schools in the local listening area that are gearing up to do some very big things this season, and none other than somebody that we know very, very well in our time broadcasting for Fountain Lake, the former Fountain Lake Cobra, now Lake Hamilton Wolf head coach, doing great things not only on the football field in Wolf Country, but outside of the field in the community as well, helping grow young men into strong leaders. We begin our summer football preview series with the head coach of the Lake Hamilton Wolves, Mr. Tommy Gillerin. Coach, so glad to have you with us once again. How are things going as you guys gear up for a very big season this year?
Yeah, no doubt. We've been, doing workouts, all summer, other than the dead period. And, we've been to team camp at OBU at the beginning of summer, and actually did a 7-on-7 at Benton and did really well there. And, of course, we have a 7-on-7 that we played just recently here at Lake Hamilton with a lot of good teams in it. And that kind of just gears it up for working on coverage of different teams and the spread and the fast kids they have, and make our kids adjust to that speed of the game. And but overall, just trying to get better each week that we can have a chance to make a run at a state title.
So, Coach, I know that last year was certainly not the year that you wanted for your squad. Your team dealt with some injuries and, kind of a season that left maybe a bitter taste in the mouth and maybe left this Wolves team hungry for a little bit more coming into this season. So 3-7 last season. Certainly, we look at the standings every single week. Playing in the 6A West has to be extremely difficult with the level of competition that you guys face week in, week out. So, but hey, last season is in the rearview mirror. It's in the history books and a clean slate in front of you. How is last year's result helping drive this year's team?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the experience that we have, we played a lot of younger kids. In fact, we started 7 sophomores, which is probably most of them started since I've been. That means we played a lot of young kids, and because of that, it really hurt us. Our starting quarterback He played the first 4 games, and of course, we had one. We were, I think at the time we were 2-2, or in fact, I think when he left we were 3-2, and then we proceeded to lose the last 6 ball games. He got hurt. He tore his ACL, and the offense ran around him. And he did a lot of things, either throwing or running, and so that hurt us. But overall, we have some good kids back. Our whole backfield, so we got experience in the backfield. Most of the offensive line's back. We lost one kid on offense, and so we feel like we're going to be all right on offense. Defensively, we got 6 back, and so we feel good there too. 6 really good players are back, and so overall, we feel like it's a year that we can be really good again. And this, that last year was an anomaly for our Indians and stuff, but our kids are hard workers, and we're going to, it'll be right. We'll make it right this year for sure.
Coach, through the years, even when you were at Fountain Lake and now at Lake Hamilton, it always seems like you develop these kids progressively from sophomores all the way up to their seniors, but you always get the best work out of them. And you find these kids that are maybe just, going through the motions, and all of a sudden you produce them and some of the stellar players throughout the year. But something we've always noticed, Mark and I've commented on, the fourth quarter. It seems like it doesn't matter. You guys somehow they come out after halftime, they're regenerated. In the fourth quarter, you seem to own all the time. How do you find that extra little incentive to get these kids work for you? Because even the big boys that you've got on your line, they just seem to get stronger as the game progresses. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, a lot of it is the work ethic we have for our kids, and then their work ethic. But the toughest we install, because of the wing T offense, we feel like it's a very physical offense. And as the game goes on, I think the defense works down. And I think because of that, when they get, as the third and then even into the fourth quarter, they're going, man, I'm tired of this guy pounding on my head. And we're breaking long runs and stuff like that because it's a physical part of the game where a lot of teams are finessing. And so when they run into us, it's a different mentality. And I feel like because of that mentality, our kids are stronger in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we've seen how Coach Tom McGillern runs teams, Tracy. He runs them from the weight room. It begins in the weight room. These guys are weightlifting champions. Their biggest strength, certainly their strength out on the field. And you mentioned that defense, Coach, and I know that you've got some returners, like you mentioned, some really key playmakers, including a leading tackler last season that I think is really going to make some really big noise for you guys. But name drop a little bit if you can. Tell us about some of maybe the projected top playmakers that you feel like are really going to step up and lead this team and help get this team back into the household name in Class 6A, because I know that this Wolves team has one goal, and that's to get to the top this season.
Yeah, and that's no doubt on that. Yeah, hey, we have one of our top returning starters is Hagen Tyler. He's a college prospect. He's 6'2", 200-pound linebacker. He's actually, he's really good. Covers the field well. He's big, long, and he reads the ball well. We're excited about him being back. He really, as the year went on, got better and better. And then, of course, Caleb Rouse, he played outside linebacker for us last year. We're actually moving him to safety. Our safety makes a lot of tackles, and so we're putting him where he can make a lot of tackles and make a lot of plays for us on defense. Those two for sure. David Dalton played defensive tackle. He's back. He was a sophomore last year. He's our best D lineman. He's back. He's one of those kids that, every play he plays like he shot out of a rocket. And so, because of his tenacity and his hard work, he's really paid off for us on that side of the ball. And so those guys out there are kind of the anchor for us on defense. And so we feel like the other kids that are around them will make us a lot better.
One thing you've seen through the years also, Tommy, is that you get your guys prepared, no doubt. And, the travel has always been essence, but now, with the likes of Mountain Home and such like that, and Greenwood's just, you call that a hop, skip, and a jump, but it's not even close. How do you get these kids ready for a trip, especially when you're having to travel to the likes of Mountain Home and such like that? The diversification of the long travel and stuff, that's got to be just some tough on some of the younger kids, doesn't it?
It is. I don't know how we got put up there, but we are. Our closest game is Russellville, which is 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Right.
Everybody else is 2.5 to 3 to 4 hours. Mountain Home and Silent Springs are 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a journey, and our kids, we actually break it up. We actually leave a little early and stop at some school and actually do a walkthrough and practice and kind of get them on their feet, move them around, eat a lunch, move them up and get there a little closer. Sit again and have a walkthrough again, and then eat a little snack, and then get ready from there. And so we've kind of broken up the trip so they didn't just show up there walk off the bus and play.
I don't know. I feel like I have that conversation every single year, how they're in the same conference, right? And, of course, thankfully, hey, that Mountain home game is at Lake Hamilton this year, I believe, so that one's going to be a good one to watch. But while we talk about the schedule, Coach, take us through maybe a must-see game, for the fans out there listening to come out and see this rejuvenated, reloaded Wolves squad. What is maybe one or two must-see games that the fans got to check out this year?
Well, the very first one is the one that
Of course.
us and Lakeside. That's always a good one, and they played really well last year, and I think Coach is doing a good job over there. But we weren't as talented as we've been, and they probably are as talented as they've ever been since I've been here. They had 2 or 3 really good receivers that were fast and long. The quarterback could really run, and they had a good running back, and then. And so overall, I thought, skill wise, they were tough to defend. And so that'll be the very first game that we have, and I feel like that's kind of going to set the stage for the season. We have Arkadelphia this year, which I know they're a 4A school, but I tell you what, man, they're as skilled as anybody in the state. Probably the one strength we have against them is that we have better linemen than they do. So. Overall, I feel like those are 2 big ones. We opened conference play with Siloam Springs, and they've been down this year, but they got a new coach. I know he's going to try to change all that. I know Southside is our second conference game, and I know that'll be a big one. That's a 7A school dropping to 6A. I know they'll feel like they're man beaters coming from playing in the 7A West. And so there's a lot of big games. Of course, Greenwood's always a big one. It's in the middle of the season. And so we're always looking forward to that game. We feel like that's the game that, if you want to win state title, it always runs through Greenwood.
Coach, step through the years, you've always had that pound and ground going back even years ago with the likes of William Burgess and stuff, but you always manage to find these big linemen, and somehow it's worked for you. Do you see the strategy in the offense like we run, we know the wing T and such like that? Is that something that you primarily always look for as far as filling in that ground and pound with these big linemen?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It's just, to me, now that nobody else runs it, it's a big deal that we run it. And I feel like now they practice against what everybody else runs all year long, and then they have to adjust for one day a week or one game a year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because of that and because of what we run and the type of physical kids we have here at Lake Hamilton, I feel like Lake Hamilton is like Fountain Lake. We just have more kids, same type of country kids that are hard workers, that do things right, and that's what we have out here. Same thing. We just have a lot more of them and probably a lot bigger. And so because of that, we feel like we always have an opportunity to win games because teams have to scheme for that 1 week, something they don't see all year too.
Coach, one last question for you this week. Obviously, some very big goals for the Wolves heading into this season, wanting to certainly have a better result than last year, keep these kids healthy. Of course, we know it's a long season. We all, anybody who follows the game knows you really have to take it 1 week at a time, and you just have to work around the injury bug if or when it comes. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, for Lake Hamilton to be considered successful this season, what is one thing that you think must happen in order for this to be a successful season for you and the guys?
Yeah, to me, is our kids have got to come out and play hard every night, and if we do that, if they come out and do exactly what we ask and play as hard as they can, and I feel like that's what we've accomplished. You can't. I don't know. I'd love to win all 10. That's we talk about that, but we also talk about if our kids go out and compete like they're supposed to, we should win games based on what we've taught them and what they can do, and then put them in the best spots to win games. Hopefully that we train them to do the right thing, and then because of that, they can be successful, here on the football field, but also in life.
No doubt about that. We find that all the time, Coach. You've won so many awards, not just for what you've done on the field, but for off the field also, and we cannot thank you enough for that. It seems to be something that you concentrate on a lot, and it is. It's a game of life, and we appreciate everything that you've done through the years, and no matter where you coach, we hope you have the best success. And thanks again for coming on the show today, and best of luck to you this year, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having the show and giving us the opportunity to, promote our team. And we appreciate what you guys do for us out there in the village.
All right, man.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Good luck this season. Go Wolves. We'll talk to you later on this year.
Thanks, man.
Head coach Tommy Gillerin of the Lake Hamilton Wolves will be featuring each of the local area coaches all summer long here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition. So make sure to tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to see if your favorite team is up next. And up next, we've got another local area team coming up, the Mighty Beavers of Glen Rose. We're going to talk to Coach Stephen Keener when we come back right here on 92.9 KVRE. Welcome back to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition right here on 92.9 KVRE and also online at KVRE.com. He's Tracy, I'm Mark, and our summer football preview series continues. Tracy, this year will be our 15th year announcing Fountain Lake football on the radio, and when we started down in Class 3A, there was another team in the same conference that was quite the rival with the Cobras, a powerhouse, if you will, out of Hot Spring County. And just like nothing's changed with us calling the Cobras, nothing has really changed in the land of the Glen Rose Beavers either. Back then, there was a very young man, a strong young man at running back, tearing up the record books, and now that young man is the head coach of the Glen Rose Beavers, and, well, the team is still off to a very successful run as well. Coach Stephen Keener joins us on the show this week. Coach, welcome. So glad to have you with us today.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and blessing to be on here with you. I appreciate it.
Now, Coach, before we get started talking about this season, what's it been like for you to be able to step into those shoes? Now you're the leader, you're the head coach for a program that, of course, you knew so well that you grew up with underneath your dad. What's it like to step in and fill those shoes, and not only fill them, but fill them well as you have over the past few seasons?
Oh, man, it's something I've, wanted to be a part of and prayed about and saw myself doing for the rest of my life for the longest time now. Again, I'm just extremely blessed to be able to step in under Mark Keener and, the job that him and Billy Elmore did before him, the job that those guys have done over the last 25 years establishing this place. Those guys laid the groundwork and did all the brunt work and got everything going, got the right pieces of the puzzle where they needed to be. And so the transition for me was actually, pretty smooth. I didn't want to come in and change anything we've been doing. It's the same program that I came up through, and the recipe's been working. So the transition was pretty smooth for me. I stepped in and new face and tried to just keep the reins going the same way these guys did. Obviously stepping into, a much bigger role, and, everything's a learning process. I self-evaluate myself each and every year, just like we do players each and every week. And so it's like anything else you step your foot into and try to dive off into something new. You're going to have learning experiences, and thankfully I got a group around me of guys that I can bounce things off of, and we try not to hire yes men around here, and it's been extremely fortunate. We got a great place we work at.
I know how important family is not only to you and your family, but to the football family at Glen Rose as well. Certainly not the biggest community out there in Hot Spring County, but one that has managed to stay successful over the years. Last year, you finished 11-3. You sweep the 4-3A conference with a perfect 7-0 record. Hey, and you made it all the way to the Class 3A semifinals last year. I know you stumbled a little bit with eventual champion Boonville, but it seems like no matter what, whenever we're here at this point of the season and we're previewing what's to come, it always feels like Glen Rose is always right there in the mix, despite not being the biggest school out there. You guys take the talent that you're given that come up through the junior high ranks, and you develop them into very strong leaders, very strong young men, not only off the field, but on the field as well. Tell me a little bit about how last season ended up for you guys, and maybe how that might help shape and motivate the season ahead.
Yeah, man. Last season, I was blessed to come into year one running the program with a group of 17 seniors. That was a heck of a group for us, man, on and off the field. The majority of those guys were 3-year starters. And just, like you said, program-wise, man, from 7th grade, there ain't a whole lot in the town, man. We have a gas station and $1 General that's not too old, so exactly. Our people are our people. And, I can't remember the last time that we've had a 7th grade team really go above 500 during the year. And that's just a testament to the kind of kids we have and then the assistant coaches we have here as well. We try to raise blue collar young men, guys that are gonna be here each and every day without question. They're gonna be on time, and it might be extremely limited on what we can do, but we're gonna do it 100 miles an hour. We're gonna do what we got, and we're blessed to have hard-nosed kids here that understand that and are willing to go through the things we put them to get to that point. And that's extremely rare, especially today, the way kids are. But we still put our kids through some stuff, some situations, and make them find a way out of it. And they continue to do that, and that's why we've been fortunate enough to be the way we have for so long. And this past season, we had a great season. Great season. We tried to schedule our non-conference pretty tough, and we know that, and kids know that, and going into conference, and then we were able to sweep conference, like you said, and really went into the playoffs on a roll a little bit, and knew we were going to be, battle tested in the semis at Boonville. But that's the way it's supposed to be. When you're playing at that time of the year, it's supposed to be that way. It just, ball didn't fall our way, and it was just one of them nights, man, that seemed like if it was supposed to go wrong, it did, in just about every situation. But that's just the way the ball rolled that night. And but again, that's a learning testament, a learning factor for us to just take things from that and from that moment, lock it away, and hopefully we can, put the pieces back together and take the next step and be knocking on the door of Little Rock.
Coach, just like you stated earlier, and of course so many great coaches before you through the likes of the playing over there, Glenn Rosen coaching for the Beavers. You talk about the ground game and everything that they did before you. What makes you coming in as the head coach a little bit different? What have you learned, especially when you from your college ranks, from you playing, is a little different? What is going to take to make it your signature teams from here on out? What are you instilling to make it the Stephen Keener head coach football teams?
I think the majority of program changes relatively since I took over. For the most part, honestly, just a few tweaks in the off-season routine that we have. We are, again, like you said, we're a ground and pound football team that wants to establish the football game through the run game, and then try to open up everything else, from that. And so we spend, again, a lot of our time, 95% of our time in that weight room. And in the past, we've always been just 3 days a week, hitting it pretty hard. And now we're 5 days a week. I'm honestly squashed the stations and rotations we're doing to about half of that per day, which allows us to incorporate quite a bit more, flexibility type stuff, agility, lateral, being able to bend, the way a football player should be able to bend and move, rotate, be able to incorporate a lot more of that, but we're also getting a lot more, speed work and then actual football individual work throughout the week again. So that's 5 days a week now. We're in the weight room, and 5 days a week we're getting some type of football. And that's from the time we get back from, we want to play deep in the playoffs, and however deep that takes us, we typically give them till about coming back off of Christmas break, and then we're right back at it. And we get to the end of the school year, and last day of school is on Friday. We're up here at 7:30 Monday morning, first day of summer, and we're back at it. And I think that has helped us a lot as far as just mobility goes. As far as strength, we're still keeping the same numbers and climbing even more so. But we were, knock on wood, we dropped down drastically percentage wise and injuries throughout the season, and just our statistics, we're big numbers place here as well. We run those weekly, and we were able to make our numbers defensively were through the roof. Our numbers offensively were through the roof, and we dropped those numbers percentage wise when it comes to the injury factor part of it. And I think that has a lot to do with it. We're not just necessarily lifting heavy so much now. So we just brought a new generation of the way we run the weight room now, and the way we're handling it, how we're trying to mimic daily football with that as well. But the kids and the staff have adjusted and ran with that, and we've been doing it for the last 2 years now. Again, knock on wood, it's been a great thing for us so far.
Yeah, you're right. With this new generation, there's kind of starting to see a changing of the guard, if you will. This younger generation of head coaches that are kind of coming in and adding some modernization to the game, and that's more mathematical based and analytic based, looking at the numbers and trying to find the more efficient ways to do things and spend that time. Coach, you mentioned having a senior laden squad last year, so coming into this year, what are some of the gaps that the team needs to fill in order to maintain that level of success that it had last year? And maybe who are some of the big playmakers this year that you expect to step up and do great things for the Beavers this year?
First and foremost, we got to find those old guys and that senior leadership that understands what this program has done, and wants to be that guy, wants to be that dog in the fight that continues to carry this program and continue to put the product out there that this town expects. And we're still trying to find that. We're trying to incorporate ways and things to bring that out of them. At the end of the day, I only have relatively 3 starters coming back off of last year's team. 4 if we're counting. I got 1 kid that was a 9th grader, and when we moved him up when the playoffs started, he started every snap for us on the D line. So I guess we could say 4, returning starters. But that's what we're looking for, because the senior class this year cut in half. There's about 12 of them, and so we're trying to find that senior leadership in those guys that that we find on a yearly basis that are going to take the reins, and bring what we're going to have probably a ton of 10th graders, rookies on the field on both sides of the ball. So we got to have those guys out there that can be those coaches on the field that can get those young guys stepping out on a Friday night when the lights are on for the first time. Their heads are going to be spinning no matter how prepared they are. So we got to have that senior leadership and those guys on the field that have been in the fight and have been deep in the playoffs and understand, it's okay. Let's clear your head. Let's get comfortable and let's just do what we've been doing for 365 days. And we got to find those guys.
Coach, what's one of the key games this year do you think that's going to really be indicative of what your season's all about? Which one do you think is really going to get the Beavers on the right track?
Oh, man. We ended up losing Crossett in non-conference play, but after the conference realignment, we also ended up losing Bismarck in conference play. And so we ended up picking up Bismarck week 2 in non-conference. And so that game really stands out to me, and we're really looking forward to that one. It's probably Coach Keith Lee at Bismarck is probably going to be the best Bismarck Lions football team that he's ever had. Bismarck has ever had walk the hallways in general, to be quite honest with you. He's had, for the most part, the same team for the last 3 years, but, as well as he did in the run he made last year. And going up to Charleston in the playoffs and stealing one from them late. He's got every one of those jokers coming back, both of his sons. One will be a junior and one will be a senior, senior being a quarterback. And having a coach's kid out there is always, extremely beneficial. And he's got 2 of them that happen to be really good ball players. And so he's going to have a heck of a ball squad this year. Still non-conference play for us, but they're another 3A opponent that he's done a heck of a job with. I really respect him and what he's came into Bismarck and been able to do the last 7, 8 years. And I know it's going to be, I think they're going to end up probably being a top 5 team pre-season. And so, everybody's expecting us to kind of fall off a little bit, per usual, since losing another pretty good senior class and being pretty rookie heavy. So we really got that game stamped, man. Non-conference week 2, we'll have the Bismarck Lions here at Glen Hill Stadium. And it should be a pretty good one. 2 Spring County teams going at it again. And, we'll find out early.
Should be a good one to watch for sure. Coach, thank you so much for joining us this week on the show, and good luck to you and the Beavers this season.
Coach, hey, don't forget now, that weight room, I know it starts pretty where it all starts, so make sure you get that Wells kid in there and push him a little bit harder, okay?
I'm trying. I'm glad you let me know about him beforehand. We got this weight room fundraiser. It's going to close out at the end of the day today, but we've exceeded our expectations on what we've tried to get to on that. So that's just a testament to the community around here, but also people like yourself and people on the outskirts that aren't really affiliated with us, but have, they got a piece of the pie somewhere around here. And generous people out there that understand where we are and who we are. We're not as fortunate enough as some of these bigger schools that can just write a check. So we got to do a little more legwork. We're extremely thankful for those people.
Coach, thank you so much. Once again, good luck this year. Go Beavers.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Go Beavers.
Take care, Coach Kidd. Talk to you later. Man, that's insightful right there. The coming up through the ranks, knowing what it's all about to be a Beaver, and then instill that in the kids that are coming up afterwards. That's pretty good stuff.
Very tradition-rich community, tradition-rich program, and, of course, keeping it with the family, the passing of the torch. I loved hearing that story last year, and, of course, on our side of the microphone, there were so many nights where we were really frustrated with the Stephen Keener out there rushing the ball down Fountain Lake's throats. But what growth we've seen out of that young man. It feels like we've kind of watched him grow up
no doubt.
On the sidelines, and now he gets to lead a very impressive group of young men over in Hot Spring County doing great things, and that's what it's all about. Of course, we'll be featuring all the local area teams, 18 total, throughout the next few weeks here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition. So stay tuned every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to see if your favorite team and their head coach is next up on our show. More Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition when we come back right here on 92.9 KVRE. Welcome back to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition here on 92.9 KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, we got to get back to baseball here. We had some great interviews with some great coaches in our high school football ranks, but we're not quite done talking Major League Baseball here. Of course, the All-Star break is upon us, and it's the halfway point, and it's really the time where you can go in and analyze and see who the biggest winners are, who the biggest losers are, and maybe even some of the biggest surprises are through the first half of the league. And before we stop talking, you were starting to talk about the leaders of the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that, really kind of feels like a dynasty. It feels like, there's a solid 5 players at the top of that rotation in the batting order that are just straight up MVP candidates. One of the biggest payrolls in the MLB. They spend money and they spend money well. They're right there in the mix in the NL West. Certainly one of the favorites to reach the World Series on the National League stage. And, all with a Shohei Ohtani, who's not even pitching this season, recovering from Tommy John surgery. You wouldn't even know by the way that he's swinging the bat this year. Still one of the best hitters in the game, bar none.
Well, and the payroll that they've got over there, Mark, is just like you said, unbelievable. But I know who you're going to come back with me on.
You do.
Because the team, I think that, of course, the All-Stars tells everything.
Well, I mean, when you talk about biggest winners of the first half of the season, you got to look at the team with the best record right now. It's the Philadelphia Phillies, and another team that has, it's taken a few years, but they've made good trades. They've spent their money relatively well, and they've got a Bryce Harper right now that is really at the top of his game. He is certainly he's closer to the end of his career maybe than he is to the beginning of his career.
He's having a good one, though.
He's not in that rookie honeymoon phase anymore, but you wouldn't be able to tell with the way that he is swinging the bat. Philadelphia is really impressive right now with the way that they're winning ball games, 59-32, sliding into the All-Star break. And this is a team that boasts the biggest run differential in all of Major League Baseball at a whopping 118. They're great at home. They lose very, very rarely at home in a very difficult place to play. This is a team that has World Series aspirations on its mind for sure. And
half the budget.
Well,
half the payroll right now as it is.
You look at, we mentioned Bryce Harper. They've got Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, and even when you take the hitting out of the equation, their pitching is the best pitching rotation in baseball as well. What Zach Wheeler has managed to do for this program this year is nothing short of incredible. You can almost put the label historic on it. I will do that if Philadelphia comes in and wins the title this year. But they lead the MLB in ERA. We talked about the National League being a very difficult place. I mean, when you looked at the NL East coming in, everybody had Atlanta picked to win this division and maybe even try to get to the World Series. Atlanta's had some key injuries. Philadelphia has played very healthy, very smart, very strategic baseball, and that's put them into the position that they are right now.
Well, and no doubt, and well, like we said, the All-Star team proves it. They've got the most on the All-Star team, and whether, to begin with, I don't even know if Harper, think about this, the slugging percentage that they've got. We noticed that you said home runs, but their slugging percentage is 4 points better than anybody, any team in the American or the National. It's unbelievable. And so with that combined, when you put people on base and you get the slugging percentage, you're going to score a lot of runs, and they're doing that. So, all right, we're at the halfway mark. You're saying Philly? I'm saying Philly.
In the National League, it's got to be Philadelphia.
All right.
I mean, they lead in pitching, hitting, base running. Unless there's a major fall off or a major injury, you've got to give it to Philly.
Okay. Brewers not even in the question?
No.
No.
Give me something to trust.
Nothing. Zero. I mean, the Cards are even making a move on them right now. Which the Cards?
To me,
really?
To me, my NLCS is Philly in LA.
Okay. All right. We got that. Let's switch. American. At the halfway point, American.
Boy, it's a toss-up right there. As much as I hate it, I like Cleveland right now. I really like Cleveland as maybe a team to reach the ALCS. I think finally the streak for Houston will be over. There will not be an 8th straight ALCS for Houston, and I'm so tickled about it. I can't even speak. But in the AL East, I believe that one of those teams will come out on top. For me, Baltimore seems to be holding steady and seems to be able to hold off New York as it stands for now. New York's going to get healthy over the second half of the season, and they're certainly going to challenge to try to reach the World Series and win the World Series for the first time since 2009. I'm looking at a Cleveland squad taking on, put me on the spot. I'm going to say Baltimore in the ALCS. So
you just took my thunder. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Yep. That's in that direction. But I got Baltimore. Yeah. I
know you do. You're a huge Baltimore Orioles fan.
The Rangers, because I live
and
down
it's
in
not
Dallas,
a bad team to throw your weight behind.
Wow. I just think that right now, the overall picture with everything combined with their pitching and their hitting, I'm taking Baltimore at the halfway point.
I can't wait to see what the second half of the MLB season holds. I doubt the White Sox win it all, but there's a chance, right? You're telling me there's a chance?
There's always a chance,
There's
Mark.
no chance.
There is
no chance. That is our show this week. Oh, boy, what a show. Jam-packed. Next week, we'll have more local high school coaches to preview their high school teams coming up. Thank you so much. You can you can text the show anytime, 501-915-1300. We're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on 92.9 KVRE. For Tracy Simpson, I'm Mark Oliver. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
No chance.